Hello once again, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Dropping the Hammer Racing Hour. Alex Gray along here with Michael Klein, who got into a sprint car recently. We'll talk about that. And obviously this is a podcast. We got another fellow podcaster joining us here this time around, Taylor Kitchen of Above the Yellow Line. Taylor, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Obviously, this is an exciting week for NASCAR because for the first time since before I think we were all born, NASCAR is racing at North Wilkesboro. Last September they announced that they're putting the All-Star race here, and they managed to get that track going for everything. It's been really impressive to watch. Obviously, they got the late model stuff going on as we're speaking, so we may be talking about that throughout the podcast and the trucks, and then, of course, the All-Star race. Very special weekend for sure. We'll get into that, but obviously, Taylor, just to start, what got you into racing, and what makes it so great?
Yeah, so I will say, since I was born, my grandma has been a major NASCAR fan. And for the first 16 years of my life, I didn't even bat an eye at the sport. I knew it existed, but I didn't really care to watch it. I thought it was boring. And it wasn't until there was one day, it was an Xfinity race that I watched with her in 2016. And I don't know what compelled me to watch that one in particular, but I just kind of had the inkling to just kind of sit down and watch, and I got really invested in that afterwards. And then in 2017, my grandma and grandpa, they went to Kentucky Speedway since the Cup Series had gone there, and they were like, hey, do you want to end up going with us this summer? And I said, you know what, why not? At that point, I was pretty invested in the sport. So summer 2017, I went to my first in-person race, and that was the moment where I fell in love with the sport. It was the sights, it was the sounds, it was the atmosphere. I never experienced something like that before, coming from a small town. So it was super exciting, and from that point on, I knew I wanted to focus some part of my life on NASCAR and racing. And then as of 2021, I built my brand Above the Yellow Line, and it really wasn't until last year all this became a career, not only in front of the camera but behind it as well. So that's kind of how I got my start in motorsports.
That's really cool and ironic. You mentioned that your first race was at Kentucky Speedway. Michael and I, we talked about it all the time on this podcast. We obviously grew up going to that track for many years, so that's really cool to see. That's really cool to hear that. And obviously, I was at that race too. Dale Jr.'s final season, the Martin Truex Jr. show that night. But yeah, that's awesome though. That's awesome that, all these years later you finally you give it a shot and you fell in love with it. And I think that's awesome. For me and Michael, obviously we were kind of bit by the bug when we were kids. What started with me was renting NASCAR Thunder 2003 from Blockbuster, and that was 2004. So and I was just like, oh my God, I love this. And then my dad was like, hey, you want to watch an actual race? And 2004 Tropicana 400 Chicagoland. That's where it all started.
Oh, that's awesome. I will say the games, I would say the past year and a half, 2 years, I've gotten into playing the games, and I really enjoyed them. And I get the nostalgia, and I'll comment that I'm going to be playing a game on the live stream, and everyone's like, I want to tune in to watch just specifically Thunder 2004, Thunder 2003. They're so fun, and they're very well put together for the most part as well. Mm-hmm. But that's been a big part of growing, not just my brand, but just even me as a fan and understanding where everyone's love for the sport and the games come from. That's been really fun. So I totally get that, starting off with the games.
Yeah, that's very interesting because, I've always been a nostalgic game kind of guy, not even just NASCAR. I love going back and playing some of the old Mario, Pac-Man, Final Fantasy. And so
absolutely.
So when I'm able to kind of combine that with my love of NASCAR, I just think that's so cool. And it's awesome to see that you've kind of built a brand kind of around that. I mean, it's kind of a niche brand. So just kind of seeing people actually doing this is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to someday, and my big goal is to somehow get into sim racing. And the only chance I've really done it was at the NASCAR Hall of Fame last year when I went to the 600 weekend, and they have the whole sim setup at the hall, and I loved it. And I was like, if I can just somehow get like a nice wheel rig, like, and I'm good to go, I can get on iRacing. And even then, like, you don't need a nice fancy setup, but that's something I'm eyeing towards the future for sure, and kind of building that brand a little bit more. I love playing the Mario games growing up. Really big on like Super Smash Bros. And like even just I had a Nintendo DS growing up as well. So I'm not like a big gamer, but it's definitely a part of my upbringing. And then also my significant other, my boyfriend, he's a major gamer as well, and he's really introduced me to that world. So I want to incorporate it more into the brand in the future, because I know the audience enjoys it, and I'm really starting to love it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, I grew up, first game I ever played was NASCAR Thunder 2004 for the PS1. So obviously it wasn't the highest quality, but, I think that's kind of what really started my love for gaming.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember going as far back as when I was little. We had an old Sega Genesis, and I remember, that's kind of where I got into Sonic the Hedgehog, and I played all the original games, the first, second, third game, Sonic and Knuckles. I think we had Sonic 3D Blast, Sonic Spinball, games like that. My dad had old PGA and the original Madden games. I think he had like Madden 95 that he would play, as well as a few PGA golf games. And I think my brother had a Super Nintendo Entertainment System. I remember playing a few games on that. And then later on, we got a PlayStation 2 Christmas of 2003, I want to say. And the two first games we got were Gran Turismo 3 and ATV Off-Road Ferry 2. For me, two all-time classics, and what actually kind of started the racing bug for me. Because after a while, I began to rent different racing games, and then, hit the big point, which was NASCAR Thunder 2003.
Awesome. So cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so one question that I had, and I asked this because I've been friends with him for a while, but from my understanding, you were actually working with Toby Christie on your podcast stuff. So I'm just curious how that relationship came to be.
Yeah, so I've been following Toby's work for years, and his website is always where I went to first just to get NASCAR news and something outside of just NASCAR.com. I trust his opinion, and I trust the work that he puts out, and I think the articles he writes and everything in between has been great in his podcast. And it was like really bizarre. I think this would have been at this point last March, I think. I got a text or a DM on Twitter, and Toby was like, "Hey, here's my cell phone number. Call me." And I was like, "Okay, I hope I'm not in trouble." But I was also like, "This guy is like the real deal." So I called him, and he just kind of wanted to know what my goals were for the future, what I was thinking with my brand. And I kind of let him know, the goal is ultimately maybe somewhere journalism in the sport, building the brand to a bigger level. And he was like, what would you think about joining us? We have a spot open. We love your content. We want to be able to grow that and grow with you. And since then, I joined their team in April of last year. So it's been over a year with them, and it's been a great experience learning from Toby, and just being able to be part of that team. And also some of my best friends came from that team as well. So that's how that relationship started. But what I appreciate about that relationship with Toby specifically, and even his wife, and they've allowed me to really build my brand by myself, and they've given me creative freedom, and they're very, very supportive. So I can't thank them enough for that. But it's been a great partnership with them, and I'm excited to keep continuing that as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. I've known Toby for a few years now, and he's a really cool guy. Me and Alex actually do a sim race with him once a year, the Daytona Rolex 24. So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun. And honestly, we just kind of get together, and obviously I know some of those guys are like super serious, but we're just gonna go out and run around for 24 hours and have fun, and that's kind of what we did. So it's been a blast doing that with him, and I agree, Toby is an incredibly great person to work with.
Absolutely. I've learned so much from him, and just they've been so kind to me and everything like that. So I'm excited. I think we're all going to meet up at Charlotte coming up in the 600, so I'm excited to be able to see them all again in person, so it'll be awesome.
Oh, that's great.
And really wish I was going to that.
Yeah. We could have met up.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Actually, it's a funny story, because I think we actually have met up before, Taylor. I think we met up at Mid-Ohio last year.
Oh, my God. You're right.
Yeah, because I think I was wearing the Toby Christie T-shirt.
That was you.
Yeah.
Get out.
You came up to me and were like, "Hey, I see your Toby Christie shirt," and I thought I recognized you. So.
Oh my god, I didn't put together that was you, Michael. That is crazy.
I mean, I think that was before we ever really started talking, so I don't blame you.
Yeah, it was before we really knew each other, but I saw the shirt and I was like, okay, I gotta go up to this guy. Like a Toby Christie fan, I loved the shirt that you were wearing. It was like our Pride shirt that we had, and so I was like, I gotta say I appreciate the shirt. So, oh my gosh, what a throwback. That's so cool.
Yeah, that was like right after I came out, so that was basically first time wearing anything like that to the racetrack. So that was pretty cool.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Small world.
For real. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I wish I could go to the 600. I actually went to the 600 back in 2006 when, ironically, the first Cars movie came out. I will say though, I will be at Gateway the week after. I'm really looking forward to it. Oh, very
nice.
Yeah, I got family in St. Louis, and I was super excited when they announced the 2022 schedule. I immediately texted my dad. I went, "Okay, we gotta go."
Absolutely.
And my dad's like, on it. So, yeah, we had a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to it again this year. So, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we went to the Roval a couple years ago, and I love the Speedway. And I honestly just love the area.
Yeah, me
love
too.
Charlotte. It's such a nice place to be. And if I wasn't racing that weekend, I would definitely be looking at going down there. But at the same time, I kind of live in Indy now, and we have the 500, so it's like, kind of have to make a decision there.
Yeah.
You have the best of both worlds, really. And I will say with Charlotte, eventually, like everyone who wants to be in NASCAR, you eventually got to go to Charlotte at some point. And what I love about that place is it reminds me a little bit of home. It's small town feeling enough to where I feel like it's from home, but it's also just big enough to where it feels like, I mean, obviously, like it's a bigger city. So it is a really great area to be around. Also, lots of good food. Very into, like, I'm a foodie.
Yes.
So that's a big plus.
Absolutely. And I agree. Charlotte is great. You mentioned you being a foodie. I'll tell you right now, Cincinnati, same way. Cincinnati, I know, is food crazy.
For real.
Yeah. So... yeah, I agree. Charlotte was awesome. I had a blast at the Roval. And again, that was the first time I went to Charlotte since that 2006 600, so it was just nice to be back there. Crazy race with the whole Harvick Elliott thing and seeing Larson win. Yeah, I mean, that was an extremely fun time. I'd like to get back to Charlotte at some point soon, even if for the Roval. So I think that's just a great track to be at.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been looking at getting down there, maybe doing a race or two there. So I'll definitely let you know if I'm doing that, Alex.
All right, sounds good. Yeah. So I mean, there's all sorts of racetracks, especially around that area. Obviously, I know the Cars Tour races at a lot of those places, and you got places like not just Charlotte, but you got Millbridge, you got North Wilkesboro's back, and you got a bunch of other places. Rockingham's trying to come back, so there's a lot of good racetracks down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're down there, definitely go to Millbridge. You will not be disappointed.
I need to go. I just, my whole thing is I've been in the sport for a bit, but since I've been up north in Ohio going to college, like I haven't been able to really go to a lot of short tracks and I haven't really gotten to experience the full racing culture. So I'm very excited now that I'm like graduated, I'm out of school, I'm done. Like I can just dive right in, go to the short tracks, go to more road courses, and just not even just NASCAR races, but branch out. Like I'm going to be going to Mid-Ohio, not just for the ARCA and truck race, but I'm going to be going to the IndyCar race the week before. So really just expanding a little bit more. I'm just getting into IndyCar really this year. So, and I love it. But yeah, definitely supporting those short tracks, supporting the other series. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And honestly, after I graduated college, I started to dip into other tracks I'd never been to. And I never had been to a dirt track until 2020. Lawrenceburg Speedway had just opened back up from all the when the world shut down. And I got to experience that for the first time. And it was a completely different atmosphere. And I think I got my welcome initiation that night when I had a rock hit me in the face. But, I mean, that's normal because it's a dirt track, so that was expected to happen. So, I like that little track. I really like that track. Then the next year, I finally got to go to Florence Speedway, the other dirt track nearby around here. And yeah, then I started. I went to Mid Ohio first time in 2021 for me and Michael. We went to the IMSA race. I had never seen an IMSA race, and I really enjoyed it. I've always wanted to see one of those, and I was just completely blown away. I just loved the atmosphere. I loved seeing that there's multiple races going on technically, so I really enjoyed the IMSA race, and then diving more into IndyCar and stuff like that. And then of course this year I finally got to go to the 500, the Daytona 500, and
Oh, very cool.
yeah, man, those first few laps, I was just like blown away. Like, my God, this is incredible. I've never seen anything like it. So it's definitely every race can have a fun experience that you can go back and have a story to tell from.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, just something I'm curious about is like, what are your future plans for the Above the Yellow Line brand? Like, what would you like to do with it?
Yeah, good question. So there's times where like I don't know myself. I have so many big ideas, but the part of me that I love about myself and I hate about myself is I'm a realist. Like if I am picturing like just a media brand, totally like a big media brand. I'm able to take cameras, go out to drivers, be contracted out, and do that type of work for them. Almost doing media for certain drivers, which I do right now behind the camera. Not part of the brand, but do it behind the camera, or just even building something bigger, like a huge website or multiple networks, multiple channels. So I see something really big happening, but then the realistic part of me is like, oh, do you know how much of a budget that's going to take? Do you know how much equipment you're going to have to buy? How much travel that is? Can you feasibly financially do that? So I see the dream and it's out there, but I also see the realistic side of this where it's not easy. It's not easy running your own business. It's not easy running your own brand, and being a freelance worker is challenging. It's really difficult. And obviously I'm not as into this career as other people around me have been, and even other content creators have been. A lot of other content creators have been on this grind so many more years than I have because I am newer to this space. And but it's been a learning curve. It's been a big challenge, but I see the brand, I guess, being very vague, but I guess more direct as direct as I can be, just expanding to do more. And I also will say too, I think this was 2 years ago at this point, maybe it was really early last year, myself and the OG ATYL crew, Adam Lucas, Dom Joseph, we've expanded to add Ben and Rob since then, and Brandon. But we had a really lofty goal of trying to cover truck, Xfinity, and Formula One and IndyCar. All are by ourselves. All of us had full-time jobs, full school, and we got a month into it and we were like, this is not going to work. So we all set really lofty goals, and I think the dreamer in me and the dreamer in all of us, we want to dream big, but it's kind of grounding yourself and taking those baby steps to what's realistic. So eventually someday we'll get to that point. I know we will. But for now, we're just gonna keep on doing what we're doing, and hopefully next year, as we try to kind of rebrand every year just a little bit, expand to do the top 3 series and then keep going.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that at all. I mean, I think that's what anybody wants to do with what they work on, is they want to grow, both like a business or even just as a person. That's what anybody wants to do. So I think that's actually a very good goal and a really good explanation of what your future plans are for Above the Yellow Line. And I really enjoyed hearing that.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks. Yeah, I think the one thing I can say is just, and obviously I'm 23 years old. I'm not sitting here saying like I'm the wisest person that's ever lived, because that comes with age and time. But when I started this brand, I really started it just with the idea of wanting to talk to people. Like nobody in my hometown talked about NASCAR. None of my friends knew what the heck it was. And I just wanted to make those connections with other people that were as passionate about this as I was. And I wanted to do it just because it's a different voice in this space. There's not a lot of other women who make the content like I do, the full length videos week in, week out. And so I wanted to fill that void a little bit, but I also just wanted to talk to other people who love racing. And me, it's also a big learning thing for me too. I don't know everything. I'll be the first to admit, I doubt myself quite a bit. But it's me wanting to interact with the fans that have had this around them since birth or have been around for a long time and wanting to learn from them. And you can read articles and you can read Wikipedias and stuff all day to get all your knowledge, but you're not going to know the actual culture and how people felt and the memories behind things unless you talk to people. And that's the journalist in me too. That's something I just love to do. But the whole part of the brand as well was just to learn. And I've learned so much about other people and things through this. So it's the way it started was just basically to have conversations, and the way it's going is continuing those conversations, but being able to expand.
That's incredible. And just a quick heads up, Mike will be back in a moment. His internet is acting up at the moment. But yeah, for me, I've spent very late last year and really this year, with my YouTube channel, Gray Speed Productions. I completely rebranded the channel with some help of a friend. And Jets Racing Designs helped design the logo and everything. And just been kind of working on what I want to do moving forward. And that's basically just trying to establish the brand a little bit better. And so when I went to Daytona and Bristol Dirt, I did a series called Gray Speed at the Track. I tried to set a theme around it. Daytona was kind of like, what makes Daytona such a special place? Bristol is talking about like the Bristol Dirt Race, talking about innovation versus tradition, and just trying to talk to people and get interviews. I've had Jeff Gluck in my video. I had Bob Pockris, very, very thankful for that, and Seth Eggert and a bunch of other people. And just trying to showcase the beauty of racing to people. And, because people can make fun of NASCAR or even IndyCar, Formula One all they want, but I still want to show the world, hey, this is what you get when you're going to a race. It's a fun experience. It's a fun time. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And also, obviously, I'm very excited about what you're doing. I think it's great talking about goals and what you want to do moving forward, because I'm kind of the same way, too. I'm a bit of a realist. I know I'd love to do all this, but I got to start here. So,
And a point you brought up, too, which I think is really important to talk about, too, is, like, the creative aspect behind all of this. It's building your brand. And I will say, like, it's 4 a.m. If I can't sleep, I will tweak a logo that I have. I will tweak a graphic. I will plan out a new idea or something like that. It's like you're always constantly working, but you also want to try to differentiate yourself from the person next to you. Like, what makes my content different? What's going to make it, I don't want to say better, because all content that's out there is good in its own way, but what is going to make somebody want to watch me versus somebody else who could give them the same information? And I think as content creators, even as journalists too, like finding your voice as a journalist, that is legit, whether it's on paper and pen or whether it's video wise, you're trying to capture an audience. And then the same messaging too is also showing people like NASCAR motorsports. It's a legit sport. It is a big deal. Of course, yes, I'm not in the car. I'm not a racer, but it's trying to show people like this is intense. This is real. It's enjoyable. It's so fun. And when people go to their first race, the response is, I cannot believe I haven't done this sooner. Like literally from anybody I've talked to. So that's a big part of it too. And I think you hit the nail on the head of when you had your series at Daytona and getting all these different voices in. It's the creative edge, but it's also showing people what motorsports really is.
Yeah, exactly. And I will say I am planning to do another one for Gateway, and I do want to touch on the family aspect and being able to enjoy something with family and how it can be a great way for a family to come out and enjoy something, and even kind of just passing it on in the family. Although my dad wasn't a huge fan growing up, he kind of got into it because of me. We could share a ton of stories about all the races we went to at Kentucky Speedway and other places we went to. So I definitely want to touch on that for the next Gray Speed at the Track. And like you said, 4 a.m., hey, I've had my nights where I can't sleep. We have them. And I will say that sometimes I'll be doing something, I'll be at work. I work at a TV station. That's my full-time job. I'm a master control operator. And something in my head, I'll be like, this is an idea. Because I also do a series using NR 2003, where I am rewriting like NASCAR history and doing a bunch of interesting things like, what if these tracks were still on the schedule? If this happened, what would happen then as a result? What if certain drivers like Kowicki and Allison were still alive? And, Yeah, I'll get ideas. Get those shower thoughts even, and I'll just sit there and be like, "Oh,
Shower thoughts.
Yep.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yep. I
Yeah, I got
man.
you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. My internet literally just dropped on me, so it kicked me out.
Oh, no worries,
It's all
man.
good.
We held down the fort for you.
That's good. Yeah, I sent you both DMs, just letting you know what was going on, because I didn't know if it kicked you both out. So I just want to let you know that's what was happening.
Yeah, I don't think that's an issue on Discord. I know back in the day, I think Skype did that if the host disconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Discord's a lot easier these days. It's a lot easier with Discord. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I mean,
I did want to ask you, Alex, if you don't mind, like,
yeah.
does working, because I know just for me, having the experience doing broadcast journalism, print journalism, and just diversifying my portfolio, I don't know if having experience working at a TV station, I actually interned at a TV station for a semester really early in my college career, but I don't know if that gives you more insight or different insight or more respect when you watch the broadcast week in, week out. And I know there's so many people that crap on the broadcast, and I will say, like, I will admit I've made some comments where I'm like, oh, this could have been better. But I also now recognize what goes on behind the scenes and why things are a certain way or why a cue might have been missed. But does that give you a different perspective?
Yeah, I won't lie. I watch TV completely different now. And if something goofy happens, I'll sit there and be like, okay, so maybe, that the guy on the switcher hit the wrong button or something like that. What's going on here? And I even like think about like how a director is calling the shots in a way, because and I have a lot of respect, obviously, for the anchors and the journalists and all the work they put in, and obviously for a job like mine, we make sure that they're on the air.
Yes.
So yeah, we roll the breaks. We put in. We time out everything. We make sure that all the shows are good. We make sure that all the commercials are good, because that's money. That's money generating, and so it's a pretty big deal. And yeah, I'll work audio for the news, and I'll just get a whole new perspective on it. And since then, I just watch TV completely different. I could, if there's a weird error that happens, I could sit there and go, like, for example, if a show starts and there's like this weird slate with a bunch of numbers, I'll be like, oh, they didn't tag the show properly,
Yeah.
Or, if, here's an example. If you're watching something like a live sporting event on NBC, and it cuts to black after like a 5-second promo of a TV show or something, and then the NBC logo pops up, and in faint you can hear the do-do-do chime. That's because somebody didn't roll their local break when they should have.
Yeah.
That you cover it. CBS, the same way. They show like, they usually show like, just a slate of like whoever's playing. Like it's NFL, Bengals versus Chiefs, and we air over that. Or occasions we'll air over PSAs, like during morning show or something like that. So I it's funny now, because now later I'm like, oh, I know what happened.
Yeah.
It's you watch TV completely different, and like you said, there's a big appreciation for it.
Absolutely, for sure.
So yeah, it's a fun gig. I won't lie, it's a fun gig.
Yeah, it's very interesting to hear that perspective from both of you. That's it's not something I really ever thought about. So that was pretty interesting to hear.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm thankful for the job I have, and just not just collecting paycheck to paycheck, but also just learning a lot of new things and how a TV station works, because there's a lot that goes into it. And I know people don't watch TV like they did 15 years ago, but still, it's important. So it's a big deal. There's still a lot of people out there who watch TV, even if it's not like what it was in 2007,
And the big thing around that too is just learning, like you mentioned, is just being able to learn on the job. And I think, I don't want to say it's a lot of people like in our generation. This is not what I mean to say by that, but I think so many people are closed off to learning about like new things, other people's experiences. It just kind of broad scope like that. And I love, like, I've worked at a clothing store. I've worked at a retirement home as a server. I've worked the jobs I'm working now, behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, driver development, marketing. Like, I feel like my portfolio is just wacky with crazy experiences, but in a way they all weave together, because the experience I've carried from one carries over to the other. And it's so important to be able to get out of your comfort zone, do different things, because you get to learn. You also have a lot of cool and just wacky stories to tell as well. If you're ever talking about your job or work experience, but it's so important to be able to learn and just carry that with you. That's been huge, just career wise and even just life wise too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I'll have what's called a maintenance day where, you know, I'm not necessarily in master control, but I'm like an extra set of hands, and I'll help the engineers out, and I'll learn all sorts of stuff that I never even thought I'd know about. So just kind of like how many cables just run through all over the place. It's absolutely...
All the cables.
Yes. And yes, I have pulled cables. So yeah, I mean, it's still, you learn something like you said, and I think that's important. You know, for me, I've done, I worked at my university's student-ran radio station. I was assistant manager for there. I had my own show for 4 years. I actually filmed for a semi-professional indoor football team when I was in high school. I did play-by-play commentary. I have done play-by-play commentary of high school sporting events over the past few years, which has been a blast. I really have a lot of fun with that. And I've even done play-by-play of iRacing on a couple of occasions recently, because I shared a video, because we went to the Hall of Fame on our way down to Daytona for the 500, and I saw there was this booth. I think it was very close to the iRacing sim, because we did that too.
I've done that. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you get to be a commentator, and I was like, this is up my alley. And I just went off, like, I hardly just read the prompter. I just kind of, instead, I just went at it, you know, and just brought the energy, and it was just a lot of fun to do that. I was like, oh, man.
I know, Michael or Alex, whenever you watch a race, I catch myself doing this sometimes, and one of my buddies, Dom, he does this all the time, but like when you're watching a race, do you try to call it like you were in the booth?
Yes,
like,
I've done it for years.
Okay, yeah, I actually kind of do.
Yes.
It's addicting. It's so fun though. I mean, and then sometimes like it's nice to listen to the calls, but sometimes I'll mute the TV and I'll be like, if I was in the booth, what would I say? What would I do? If I was a pit reporter, what would I say? What would I do? It's and even pit reporting too, like that's one heck of a job as well.
I agree.
So it's crazy. I did for my college as well. I was part of their radio sports organization. They just rebranded it, but I was able to do a lot of board opping. I called one game and I was like, maybe this isn't for me over the radio wise. It was a volleyball game. So that was like strike one there. I knew a little bit about volleyball, but not enough to like totally fall in love with it. But I love being able to board op and kind of run things from behind the scenes. And then I got the opportunity to actually do rinkside reporting for my school's hockey team for one of their seasons. I did a few games, and like that was such a learning experience. That was like my first time actually being like on camera, like live broadcast. But just working with the team behind the camera was so much fun. But like getting to call the games and like writing the notes, and I was like, this is kind of what a pit reporter does. You're not the color commentator, you're not the normal play-by-play, but you're there like getting the stories at the side. And so that was like, I was like, this is my introduction to what maybe a potential career path could be racing wise, but definitely learning what they do and the work that they have to do behind the scenes to gather those stories, gather those stats. Like that was really cool as well. But yeah, wild experiences.
That's great. I love hearing that. And, you know, it's kind of like for me, I'll have to, you know, every game I call, I definitely try to look up statistics, and even I'll try and point out some star players like, oh, this player is a 4 or 5 star recruit, and he's being looked at by like Ohio State and Cincinnati and Michigan, you know, schools like that. And I try to point that out in the broadcasts.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed every little bit of it, and I hope to continue doing it, especially this fall when we get back to more high school football action.
Oh yeah, that'll be fun.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. So yeah, we're having a lot of fun here. I knew we'd had fun. And obviously, this is going to be a fun week.
We always have fun here.
Absolutely. That's what this podcast is all about, is having fun. Because fun things are fun. But with that being said, so North Wilkesboro, huge week. First time since 96. This is, wow. And for the longest time, you know, I think a lot of us probably thought, oh, they're never going to go back there. It's just going to sit there. Never. That's why you just say never. And came back to life. You know, the Dale Jr. just went, hey, why don't we get together? Let's clean up the weeds. Let's get the track scanned on iRacing in case, you know, we never get to race here again. We at least have it preserved virtually. And then suddenly, you know, a few other things happened, a few other dominoes fell, and here we are. North Wilkesboro's as good as new, and you know, we got the Cup, the Truck Series, and obviously late models. It's an action-packed weekend there, and I think it's cool to see a racetrack like North Wilkesboro get revived. I mean, this is a track that was on the original 1949 NASCAR Strictly Stock schedule. It's always been a part of NASCAR's history. Here's an interesting question. We had the throwback week at Darlington last week. If North Wilkesboro ends up having a points race next year and so on, should North Wilkesboro be the throwback week?
I would 100% say so, honestly.
Yeah, I'm the same way, and I actually think Michael McDowell is running a throwback scheme for the race.
Yeah.
So some drivers have jumped on board with that already, and I'm like, heck, why not? I know Denny Hamlin made a comment on his podcast where he's like, I think the Darlington throwback weekend has just kind of run its course, and I'm like, maybe it has for Darlington, but maybe not for North Wilkesboro. And I saw somebody took a picture at the track of like, hey, lock in your tickets for 2024. So we're pretty sure that there's we're for sure something's probably going to happen in 2024 there, whether it's a points race, an all-star race, whatever it may be. But I say move it to then. I think that's really fun. I think just having Mother's Day, throwback weekend, everything like all in one weekend, that's a lot, especially just story-wise. It can kind of clump things up a little bit. So break it apart. Give the throwback schemes a chance to shine. Give the mothers a chance to shine on their weekend, on their race day.
Yeah.
But I definitely think 100% agree with you, Michael, that it should be moved to a points race at North Wilkesboro if that is what happens.
Yeah, because I mean, North Wilkesboro, if you ask me, is the embodiment of what, you know, NASCAR roots are.
Absolutely.
I mean, this track was around, I think, before NASCAR even existed.
Mm-hmm.
And, you look at, the old NASCAR, it's like, it was primarily the short tracks in the Southeast. And that's exactly what this place is. And you even go to it now, I mean, even as they modernized it, they still kind of have that retro feel to it.
Oh, absolutely.
There's actually a really good documentary on Flow Sports YouTube channel that I would highly recommend anyone check out. Basically, Matthew Dillner talks to Dylan Wilson, who is a Cars Tour driver who actually grew up right across the street from the big track.
Oh, wow.
And they actually take a look inside it, and you can see that despite the fact that they've gone through and kind of modernized the facility, it still very much has that old school feel to it. So I think that just shows that it would be absolutely perfect for this kind of occasion.
Absolutely. 100% agree.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Kevin Harvick, he's going to be driving the 29 one last time, the 2001 GM Goodwrench throwback. As you said, McDowell's going to be driving, I think, the Mark Martin Folgers throwback. And yeah, I mean, I think it's great with the... I had a brain fart. Give me a moment here. Seriously, yeah. This is kind of where NASCAR's roots began. This is where the early days are, North Wilkesboro. For example, the press box, I think, used to say NASCAR Winston Cup Series. Well, they kept the Winston look and font, but now it says NASCAR Cup Series. And I love little things like that just kind of make you go, oh, that's cool. They kind of kept it that way, but it's modernized in a way, but still traditional. And I guess I kind of... Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, like you hit the nail on the head there. What I appreciate about them reviving this track is it wasn't an overhaul. It was a true revival. They really respected the original track that was there, like in the infrastructure that was there as well. And they were even talking, I think it was Bubba Wallace's spotter. He was asking if there was a ticket available that someone was willing to sell him just so he had a better view of the whole racetrack for Bubba. I think that was the whole intent behind that. And so even the spotters might have a hard time seeing the entire track. I know Victory Lane's a little different. There's going to be some challenges they're going to have to work through because the track not necessarily is completely modern in terms of maneuverability and just overall function, but they kept the original idea and the original style around the track and the original thought. And so I think that's really honorable, and I love that they did that. And they're going to make it work because it's such a kick-ass idea, like just straight up. It's so cool. And I love how excited everyone is about this too. Young fans, newer fans, older fans, longtime fans, whatever it is. Like, this is such a cool idea, and I'm really glad that Dale Jr. really pushed the envelope to get this to happen. That man has so much power. So
because look, even 5 years ago, this place was dead. There was no hope for it.
It was growing weeds.
Everyone was thinking, okay, it's just going to sit here until they sell it and demolish it.
Yeah.
Now, look at it. It's got a cup race again.
Yeah, I mean, who had that on their bingo card?
Nobody. If somebody had it on their bingo card, they should probably try to do the lottery somewhere at some point in their life, because this is it's unimaginable, but amazing.
It really is. And, you go back to, like, 2018, 2017, and you look at how different the schedule is now, imagine going back to somebody then and just saying, like, hey, by, 2023, I just want to let you know that Circuit of the Americas, the F1 track, is going to be a NASCAR track. National Super Speedway, after doing nothing for a decade, is going to come back. And, Gateway, who, that track almost died too, came back and now has a cup race. And it's been, really exciting to see all these schedule changes and looking like there's going to be more. They're talking about an international race, whether they go to Mexico or Canada or, heck, maybe overseas, which I would love to see NASCAR go back to Japan or maybe try England. I want the Motegi Oval to be repaired. I know it got damaged in that 2011 earthquake. I want NASCAR to go back there. But there or Suzuka. I think both of those would be great. Yeah. But if they go back to Suzuka, I want to see them do the full F1 layout. Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That'd be interesting for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you guys are looking for an update on the race, right now, Brendan Queen is leading Cars Tour late model stock race. Dale Jr. is currently in 9th.
Okay. All right, Dale.
Come on, Junebug, let's go.
Yeah, he's been battling with Daniel Suarez for pretty much the whole race right now. Caution is out. 87 lost his hood, and Brad Kozlowski flooded into the air.
Oh, Brad.
Come on.
I don't think there was any damage to his car. I think he's fine.
Well, that's good. That's good. Hopefully Brad can continue there. We were just talking about Brad before the podcast started, and we were kind of talking about, because he's in this race, and then I kind of brought up, like, I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with RFK. I think he's going to really revive that race team, and it's showing. He and Buescher have been running very solid. I think, let me check the standings. I'm pretty sure both of them.
They're in the round of 16 right now. They're solidly in.
Yeah, it's really awesome to see that. And just seeing the incredible turnaround. Yeah, they haven't won a race, but they sure come close to it. I think Brad can get a win. I think Buescher can steal one too. So yeah, Brad's sitting in 8th and Buescher's 13th. So RFK, they may seem quiet, but they're there. And they're letting the world know.
Yeah, I will say last year at Charlotte, I went to their fan day, and I mean that's the first time I'd ever really been like really inside like a team's shop or a gift place or whatever you want to call it. I don't know right now, but it's just the whole shop amazed me. I don't know if you guys have been there, but I highly recommend it. Like that, of all the race shops I've been to when I went last year, by far my favorite one. They had everything on display. They had really good videos, like just walking through the history of RFK and how they got to be RFK today. And Brad and Chris Buescher, they made like their appearances. They signed things for fans for like 2 hours. You had to get there early to get a wristband. I waited there for like 4 hours, but it was well worth it. Like super nice guys, really genuine, and they really care about their fans. And Brad clearly cares about the future of that organization, and he's making it happen with whether it's a new team alliance that's coming up, whether it's just making things and modernizing their business a little bit and really getting back in front of the fans. Like you can tell, like he's wanting to make this brand and this team future proof. And they're definitely doing that. And again, like we just talked about, performance wise too, solidly within the playoff standings. Brad at one point this season had a chance to win a race. I thought he was going to, and then it just fell short for him. But yeah, Atlanta, that's what it was.
Yeah. So I was pulling for Brad in a way. I was kind of like, come on, Brad.
Me too. I wanted him to win so bad, but no, it's really good to see them doing well. I think too, just having a newer team, your expectation, you always want them to succeed. Even like when Bubba Wallace joined 23XI, or when Austin Cindric went to Penske, obviously he won the Daytona 500, but it's making sure our expectations are realistic. And I don't know if any of us expected things spectacular out of RFK when it was established with Brad going to that car. But I don't know if we expected as much frustration as they got last year. So I'm glad to see them on the right path for sure.
I knew it was going to be a process. I knew it was going to take time. I knew they weren't going to light the world on fire right away. I knew Brad was going to struggle, but I really felt like 2023 was going to be a better year. And at the 500, there was a time during that race where I thought Chris Buescher or Brad was going to win it. They were up front all race long, it felt like, up until all the chaos ensued at the very end.
Absolutely. It's always the chaos.
Yeah. That's the beauty of Daytona, baby. That's the beauty of Daytona. But yeah, I mean, really exciting to see that, and honestly, seeing the new generation of team owners. You got Jeff Gordon working with Hendrick, which news from Hendrick today, a new partnership with Chuck E. Cheese, which
oh really?
Yeah.
I actually, when Adam Stern posted that, I thought it was a fake account. So I went right to the account and I'm like, oh my God, this is really Adam Stern. This is a real partnership. This is really happening. I mean, great way to get kids involved, but just wild.
Yeah, you wouldn't have thought Chuck E. Cheese, but I think what they're doing with Chuck E. Cheese is great. Being able to bring in new young fans, because I think, again, NASCAR's got to go after that. And I think that's a great way of doing it. And and ironically enough, I posted about it, and both Chuck E. Cheese and Jeff Gordon liked the tweet.
Let's go!
Yeah, what are the odds? And I think even like Chuck E. Cheese replied to it. Let me see here. Yeah, we bring in the whole family with a mouse emoji, checker flag emoji, and a star emoji. So that works.
Did you guys go to Chuck E. Cheese as a kid?
Yes. Yeah, I did. It
was like my favorite place. I will say the animatronics, scary as crap, but I just remember going as a kid and having such a fun time. So I think it is a really cool partnership. But yeah, the memories there and the pizza there. Hopefully the pizza's gone. But
they have Chuck E. Cheese frozen pizza now?
Yeah.
What?
They do, yeah.
Yeah, they do.
No.
I go into Kroger and I see them all the time.
Yeah, I remember I got one for the Clash this year.
Yeah, that's right. I bet now you're probably going to I got to run to the store now.
Yeah, I might need to go in a few minutes. I have an errand I need to run.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I meant to bring this up.
It must be really creepy with the animatronics now in the post Five Nights at Freddy's world.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Nightmares.
But let me tell you, I meant to bring this up earlier. I saw a comment that I think summed it up perfectly. Nostalgia is one hell of a drug.
Oh, yeah.
But a good one.
Yeah.
A very good one.
Just inject it straight into my veins.
Yep.
Please.
Give me all the nostalgia now.
Yeah, it's like I can literally go into Disc Replay and look at the vintage games and stuff and just stay there for hours on end if I didn't have anything else to do.
Oh, absolutely. I'll watch old clips and be like, oh, I remember that. Yeah, I remember this race. I remember this finish, stuff like that.
Yeah, I know Brock Beard has a few videos up. Basically where he compiles clips of 2000s NASCAR IRL kart. It is such a nostalgia trip. I would highly recommend anybody go check those out.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right, so did we want to do picks for North Wilkesboro, or?
I don't see why not.
We can.
I think that
sounds good.
Yeah.
Alex, I'll let you start off, or actually no, let's let Taylor start off.
Yeah.
So are we doing truck and all-star race, or?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
That'll work.
So all-star race, I have a opinion on that. But for truck, I don't know. I'm kind of on the Corey Heim train right now. So I would like to see him get the win for the truck race. I think that'd be great. For Cup, I can tell you who's probably not going to win that race. I do not think Ross Chastain is going to win that. I think the drivers are not going to let that happen. So I'll just say right now, I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, if he wins it, that's great. I mean, what a statement. But I also think that, $1 million are on the line. You're going to do whatever it takes.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I mean, it would be great to see a Ryan Blaney win for the All-Star race back-to-back. I think that'd be great. But I also think you got to look at some of your more, your short track guys and the guys that are good with that. I mean, Bubba Wallace is going to be running in the truck race, notably, just thinking out loud. So he might be a great pick, having more track time. So maybe Bubba Wallace. Why not? He's picked up speed. He's had 2 top 5s in a row at the past 2 tracks that we've went to, and I think momentum it carries you a long way. So why not? Let's pick Bubba Wallace to win the All-Star race.
I think it's a good
All right.
point.
So I'm gonna half agree with you on one thing, and I'm going to say Bubba Wallace wins the truck race.
Okay.
Obviously he's got a pretty good track record in the truck series. I think he's got like 7 or 8 wins. If anyone knows that, you can correct me on it. He's obviously pretty good in the truck series, and short tracks definitely seem to be up its wheelhouse in that series. So I think I'm gonna go with that. And for the Cup, the All-Star race, just because this guy seems to be great whenever we go to a new track, which technically this isn't a new track, but it's a track none of these guys have ever been to before.
New to them.
I'm going with Joey Logano.
Good pick. That's good.
Mr. Inaugural, yeah.
Mr. Inaugural, yes.
I mean, yeah, he won the 2022 Clash. He won a Gateway. He won the Bristol Dirt Race in 2021. Perhaps the All-Star race this year. So we'll see what happens there. And with that, I guess it's my turn now. So just as a quick heads up for the Tyson 250, here are the Cup drivers listed. Bubba Wallace in the 1 for Tricon. Kyle Larson in the 7th for Spire. That was supposed to be Alex Bowman. Unfortunately, he's currently out with that injury. Let me see here. Ross Chastain for Nice. I will point out that Josh Williams is driving for AM Racing. William Byron's driving for Kyle Busch. Christopher Bell is in the 61 for Hattori. So,
ooh.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a Christopher Bell win.
I think Christopher Bell is a good choice there. With the truck race, I feel like a Cup driver is going to win this race. But I'm going to go with William Byron. He's been on fire lately. 3 wins in the Cup Series this season already. And if he's in this truck race, I think he is a dual threat. I do think William Byron will win the Truck Series race at North Wilkesboro. Which I'm pretty happy the Truck Series is at North Wilkesboro. I think that could be like a key race on the schedule for years going forward. Onward to the All-Star race. Part of me wants to say Chastain just for the funny of it, but I do agree that, the likes of drivers, especially a guy named Denny Hamlin, is probably not going to make that easy for him. So, with that being said, oh man, this is a tough one. He did, if I remember correctly, he did win that Pro Invitational race before NASCAR came back to real racing in 2020. I'm going to go with a different one. I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin to win the All-Star race.
Hey.
At North Wilkesboro.
Okay.
So, which means I could be jinxing him, but we'll find out. Denny, don't blame me if you end up getting wrecked by Chastain or something. So, yeah. Overall, it's going to be a fun weekend just to see NASCAR back there. And just interesting to see moving forward with that track, what else they do. Because, obviously, originally, I think they were going to put dirt on the track, and then they were going to repave it. And then suddenly, they were like, actually, we're going to host the All-Star race. I remember I was getting ready to go to a concert. I had won a ticket. I won a raffle at work, and I'm sitting there. I'm just chilling for the concert on my phone, and then I went, hold on a second. What does that say? The All-Star race is going to be at North Wilkesboro? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was at work when I saw that, and I think that was kind of my reaction too.
Yeah, I was just like,
I would have to agree.
Yeah, I was like, wow, they're actually doing this. Holy crap. So, yeah, it's been a lot of anticipation leading up to this moment. It's going to be, who knows, maybe perhaps one hot night come All-Star night.
Ooh! Dale Jr.'s up to 6th.
Yes! Come on, Junior.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah, he is moving.
You love to see it. Dale Jr. win at North Wilkesboro would be awesome.
Yeah, he's really taken to this late model stock stuff, and especially seems to be good here. I don't know, it seems kind of fitting, considering he pretty much didn't single-handedly do it, but he played a huge part in reviving it. So that's
Yeah.
really cool to see.
And not to mention, he partially runs the Cars Tour now with Jeff Burton, Kevin Harvick, and I think Justin Marks, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm curious to see what they do with the Cars Tour moving forward as well. That's going to be exciting to watch.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Did we have anything else that we wanted to talk about? Anything we missed?
So I do just want to quickly give a quick shout out to Fuller Cruise Travel Planner. They have just joined on as a sponsor for Michael Klein Racing, and I'm very excited to be carrying them on my dirt late model CRA Street Stocks. Hopefully, Arkham and Art Series car this year. So big thanks to them. And if anyone wants to check that out, you can see it on my social media, and you will see them on my car this year.
That's awesome. And obviously, you made your sprint car debut as well recently, right?
Yep, this past weekend.
Oh, very.
Oh yeah, those scenes are something else entirely. Like, I don't think I've ever had as much fun as I had driving that thing. Definitely looking forward to hopefully doing it again at some point this year.
Yeah, that's great, man. And obviously, looking forward to more of your upcoming racing endeavors for sure. Taylor, thank you so much for joining. This was a really fun podcast, just getting to talk about all sorts of fun stuff and why we love racing and branding and all that fun stuff. It's been a blast. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Definitely appreciate it. It was great having you.
Thank you.
Of course. And with that, that'll wrap things up here from this newest edition of the Dropping the Hammer Racing Hour. You can check all the episodes out on Gray Speed Productions. And with that, from Taylor Kitchen, Michael Klein, and myself, Alex Gray, signing off, and we'll see you next time.